That's a good
I'm putting you on
question
the
there.
spot,
Yeah.
Johnny.
So, yeah, you really did on this one. You know, she's gonna come. So I'm not worried about that. But most importantly, I think it's always good to make sure that you work on yourself first.
Yeah,
You know, while you wait, especially at
absolutely.
this moment, this whole COVID thing that's happening, this whole pandemic that's happening right now, I think it's a time for refinement. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta like don't focus too much on dating, or don't focus too much on other things that don't serve you right now, because right now you may want to date just because you may feel lonely, so you're looking for that partner
Mm,
to really help you
that
fulfill
right
certain
there.
needs, right?
That
Right.
right there,
So
you just hit it on the nail.
right,
So,
we're making it
welcome,
work
Johnny
exactly.
Dervillion. Thank you for
Hey,
joining us. Thank you for
of
staying
course,
patient with the technology not working in my Facebook group. So,
of
we're
course,
going to
of
figure that out
course,
for next time.
of course.
But I'm just super excited to share this conversation with everyone because it's just so important to, number one, be able to define who you are, but also be able to really embrace who you are and honor your
Yeah,
authenticity.
yeah,
I
yeah,
really feel like it's really the key to setting yourself free, which, I think we all want to experience freedom, but I think sometimes we look at freedom as kind of like a destination that's only going to be obtained if we get more money or we know certain people, but it's really just a state of mind, right? It's just
it's
like
a state of mind.
choosing to
That's all it
embrace
is.
yourself every single day.
Yeah,
So
that's correct.
yeah. And so, like, we're both life coaches. For those of you who don't know, Johnny Dervillion is one of my clients. And as a life coach, I feel like it's super important to live what you preach to your clients, right? In order to have like
Yeah, of
a
course.
massive impact. And one of the best ways of doing that is by sharing your personal stories of overcoming
Yep.
obstacles in your own life before you were called to do this
Right.
work. So, what
Right.
is your story? What's Johnny's story?
Okay, that's a good question, but I'll go ahead and introduce myself very quickly.
Okay.
Shannon and I, we kind of we've been Facebook friends for quite a while, and then I remember I was looking for so I'm a self-developing life coach, right? So I was looking for a coach because I believe that in order for me to be a better coach, I had to be coached, right? So I went on Thumbtack looking for coaches. That was about 5 6 months ago, and I came across a couple of coaches. I had a couple of interviews with a few of them, and somehow uh, we were not connected. I couldn't connect with neither one of them. So I kind of let that go for a little bit, and then just about 2 months ago, I had a chance to go back and get to Thumbtag, and I came across Shannon, and I didn't even know Shannon was a you were a life coach. So when I saw your profile, I was
Yeah.
like, wait, hold on, Shannon is a life coach. So I quickly reached out to her, and we spoke for about a good 20 minutes, and then I was like, you know what, you are going to be my coach. And then we've been connected since then, and I think we are about halfway through our coachings right now, and it's been going
Yeah.
fantastic, and I've been seeing some great results, and I appreciate you. So if you are watching this live and you are looking for a coach, definitely
Aw.
hit my girl Shannon. She's fantastic. Know to how to listen, and a part of being a great coach is to know how to listen, right, and really be able to create some great strategy on resolving clients' needs. So she was able to do that, and then so far it's been a great experience. So thank you, Shannon. I'm glad to had a chance to come
Aw.
across you. So that's very quickly, but about myself, very quickly. I've been working in the IT field, as a matter of fact. Besides doing life coach, I've been doing that for a couple of years now, and it's been great. However, I've been in the IT field for close to 15 years, working as a software developer. And right now, what I do is I'm a technical consultant, and I work for a software company called Phineas, and then we provide software solutions to insurance companies in terms of being able to manage their claims for life insurance claiming sort of thing. So it's been great. But on the side of that, what I love doing the most is coaching. I love coaching. I have a passion for that, and really, so that's a really quick description about what I do, and then kind of give you guys a quick background about myself. But just like Shannon has explained earlier, I think that defining our identity into who we are is really so the key. And I think that the very first action to stay authentic with ourselves is to redefine our identity, right? While continuously shaping them in alignment with our true selves and our life
Yeah.
purpose. So one of the most precious, distinctive assets that we possess in life is our identity, and not being able to be
Yeah.
clear about our identity can undermine the very essence of life and can define the inner struggles that within yourself, right? Just like a
Mm-hmm.
jigsaw puzzle, for example, right? So if you're familiar with one, in order to build one, it requires patience, right? It also
Mm-hmm.
requires for you to have all the pieces that you need in order to, and then you have to know where every single piece goes and where everything fits, right? And the shapes may look alike, but each of them carry their own characteristics in order to put them together to make it a whole puzzle, right? And I feel like our life is
Yeah.
no different, except that our life carries an infinite number of pieces that allows us to discover endless possibilities, right? And um,
Yeah.
and really, since to me, I feel like since the beginning of time, society has created, it has its ways with us, right? By creating labels and limiting codes that identifies who
Yeah.
we are and dictate or wanting to dictate who we are to become, right? And for the most part, we
Yeah.
kind of fall victim to the trap by our dependencies on external factors like culture,
Yeah.
race, and gender, religion, political views, and
Right.
physical appearance, and so on. And we
Mm-hmm.
we seek approval for reassurance from other people in order to feel good about ourselves, right? But in the
Right.
process, we kind of lose track and lose sight of our unique identities. So back to the
Yeah.
identity, right? So I was explaining, and I think people think that humans aren't born with an identity, and that an identity is something that evolves over time, and really that is somewhat true, but while
Yeah.
our life experiences have shaped us into who we are today, it's often not enough, right? Sometimes we find it
Mm-hmm.
hard to acclimate due to a lack of an identity that really serves us, right? When
Right.
in fact our identities are the core elements and the key piece that defines who we are and why we were created to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So despite our best effort, we often find ourselves unable to achieve what we want in life, right? Which lead
Yeah.
us to a great deal of frustrations, making
Mm-hmm.
us feel hopeless, helpless, and most importantly, we live that type of despair life, right? And
Yeah.
and truly, what shapes our identity is our belief system. Our
Right.
belief system is what I believe shapes our identity. Of course, there are a multitude of inherited generics that determines
Mm-hmm.
our gender, such as race, nationality, physical appearance, and so on. But our environment also play a big role. But those alone, however, should not define who we are, right? So it's very important
Yeah.
to really be able to identify this belief system that we carry from a childhood, and so that we can be able to balance them. And this is how we able to regain our full potential and be able to function and do the things that we were created to create to be in the first place. So
Right.
yeah, so it's very important, man, to kind of like focus on our identity and find that identification and knowing who you are and to really live peace with yourself. So yeah.
Yeah. I love that. So how did you come about redefining your identity and your belief system? What was that process for you?
That's a great question right there. So defining my identity, man. To do that, before I even answer that question, I will go ahead and share this quick story with you here. So I was born and
Yeah.
raised in Haiti, a place that
Mm-hmm.
shall forever be my true home. As you can see, I do carry an accent. It's funny how people see me every time, right? And they think I'm regular African American because I look like one. I look like an African American, right? But the moment I speak,
Yeah.
they kind of catch them off guard. They're like, wait, hold up, you got an accent. Where are you from? And I'll be like, I'm Haitian. I'm from Haiti.
Right.
And then sometimes they'll try to speak some French and try to play it a little bit. But yeah, so was born and
Interesting.
raised in Haiti. Yeah, and at the age of 14, I kind of experienced a very traumatic experience, which actually took a toll on me for some years, right? I
Mm-hmm.
was raised in a large family. It was about five of us in the family. My mother was really raising the five of us, which I was the fourth child, right, growing up. And back then, when I was about 10, 11, I remember I always used to, I liked attention, just like any kid, right? You like attention, you like to do things so people can like you and things, sort of things, right? So
Yeah.
I wanted to do things and so that people can like me, be the school kid around the block and, kind of attract friends. And
Mm-hmm.
through that process, I came across a lot of good friends. Also, I came across some of the friends that were not good influencers, right? So with that
Mm-hmm.
being said, I came across some friends who I was learning negative things from. And then through that process, I remember we had a neighbor who used to have a lot of toys at his house, and he used to invite a lot of kids to come play at his house because he could afford things. And remind you, Haiti is a third world country, so it's a poor country. So a lot of kids grow up without having the ability to afford things. Even
Yeah.
when you grow, you're raising children. You have no way of providing food to your own children and things like that.
Wow.
So it's really rough. So having the ability as a kid to go to a house where you can see unlimited toys that you can play with, you can see other children to play with was very, very helpful,
Yeah.
growing up. And then one time I remember I've decided that I saw this guy had a Walkman. I don't know if you know what a Walkman is. If
Oh
you're
yeah,
watching
I
this
know about the
live,
Walkmans.
you know about the Walkman? So it's this little cassette player that had a little play
Yeah.
and then the fast forward and rewind and stuff. So he had one of those.
Yep.
And I've decided,
Okay.
man, I decided I was gonna steal that Walkman. So I stole the Walkman. I said, this thing is coming home with me. I want it because I
Mm.
couldn't afford it, so I stole
Mm-hmm.
it. So here I am with this Walkman, carrying it, with the headset on my head, listening to music, walking around the neighborhood, acting like this cool kid, who got this new Walkman, and you see other kids walking towards me, and then it was really cool. I'm trying to look cool. I got a Walkman and all this and all that. So the words kind of go around, and this guy found out that I stole his Walkman, and he came to my house. I remember my mom was at the house at the time. He was heated. He was upset. He was mad, and he started talking like in a very disrespectful way towards myself, towards my mother, and talking about how could you let your son do this? How could you do this? I let you come into
Wow.
my house. And then you're gonna do this to me, and then start to get into my mom's on a personal level, and it was very embarrassing. I remember my
Yeah.
mother just sitting there. She couldn't say a word. She just had to take everything in, right? So for a
Yeah.
good 15, 20 minutes, this guy was just going off, right? So eventually my mom had me I handed back the Walkman. I didn't want to hand it back, but I had to, right? So after that incident, of course, there was the time for the punishment because I had to punish, she had to punish me some way,
Mm.
somehow, so I can learn a lesson from this so it wouldn't happen again, right? So
Mm-hmm.
her way of punishing me was to tie both of my hands, both of my legs around a pole, and with a cable wire, she kept on beating me. And I remember how painful that moment was, not being able to move around with both of your legs, both of your le- arms around the pole. And she kept on beating me. I could tell from her eyes that she was frustrated. She was angry. And she just wanted to really let all those frustrations, all those anger out. And then she kind of used that moment to just let it all go by beating me to I've never seen anything like this before. She's never done anything like this before to any one of us, right?
Wow.
And I remember
Mm-hmm.
seeing my brothers and sisters, they were just standing around just looking at me, and I was taking the whooping, and I kept on looking at them. I say, why y'all just standing and looking? I'm in pain here. Go find a neighbor or something. Come in here and
Mm-hmm.
rescue me. But they couldn't move
Mm-hmm.
either because if they move, they're gonna get a part of
Then
this,
they were
right?
gonna
So
get
they
it right.
all they could do was just stand there and watch me. So
Mm-hmm.
that happened for a good 30 to 45 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it started to get, after the beating happened, she let on that pole for a good hour, hour and a half. And then after that, it started to get dark, and my brother came and my sisters came. They untied me, and right after they untied me off that pole, I just fell off that floor flat out. I was just hurt. I was tired. My body, there was blood all over my arm, all over my right arm, my back, my legs, everywhere. My clothes, they were all bloody. I remember I lay there for a good couple of hours, and then towards later that night, I had to crawl myself towards my bed so I could go ahead and find some rest. And even that, once I reached the bed, I couldn't even lean on my left side. I couldn't lean on my back side. I couldn't lean on my back. So I had to sit straight so that I could go ahead and get some rest. The whole
Wow.
night, I just sit straight because I just couldn't lean anywhere. So I remember even the next day, I had to cover my face so that I could walk to the nearby beach so I can go ahead and just throw myself in the water so that the salted water could kind of like help healing the pain a little bit,
Mm.
right? So I remember all of that. And then after that incident happened, I spent a good 2 weeks inside that room, did not step out. I was in pain. I was hurt. And I was just starting questioning myself, if my own mother could do that to me, then I must be the worst kid that ever existed. So
Wow.
I started having these negative thoughts going through my head, and all those negative things going through my head. And all I could think is that nobody loves me, man.
Hmm.
My own mother, whom I should be getting this love from, did that to me. So I started carrying a lot of insecurities. I started carrying a lot of guilt. I started carrying a lot of shameful things, right, towards
Hmm.
myself, which carries for a couple of years. And just about 2 years after that incident, I remember that's when I migrated to the United States.
Okay.
And then come to find out, I had to go through the phase of racism because I started going to high school in a predominant white school, and at that, around that time, the racism was still in full effect. And I remember going through the bullying where kids used to bully me just because I didn't know how to speak English. And
Mm.
I remember, kids to talk about me and talking about, why don't you go back to your country and learn some English, man, before you can come back over here and talk to us and this and that. So I
Wow.
that used to hurt me even worse, right? So I remember going back home, not wanting to even go back to that school because of the bullying, because all of these, even girls, I try to talk to girls and they used to like dismiss me, right? So all this those
Right.
rejection kind of like validate those thinking that I've had for many years, that I was nobody, that I was this
Yeah.
kid who has no love, nobody cares, right? Even now, this
Right.
thing is happening in this school. I'm getting bullied, nobody likes me. So it was very, very tough, right? But at the same
Hmm.
time, I had to put myself in a way where I had to discover something for myself. And I started doing this thing, and I don't know if you might know this reggae artist called Shaggy. Back in the
Yeah.
90s, he was very popular. There was
Hmm.
Shabba Ranks was another artist as well. And I
Yep.
remember I was really into music, and
Hmm.
Shaggy and Shabba Ranks, they were like really big back then. I used to
Hmm.
mimic the things that they sing about and things like that, right? And I
Hmm.
remember I started doing this reggae rap, and it was really I was getting attention from the other kids, right? Like Shabba Ranks was one of my favorites, and I used to
Yeah.
do these things in the hallway, like Mr. Lover, me follow me now, Mr. Lover. I'm in now, Mr. Lover, me follow me now, Mr. Lover.
Wow,
So I
you're
used to
bringing
do
it
that all the
back.
time.
Okay.
Yeah, gotta bring it back, right? So I used to do that. And the more I do that, the kids used to love it, man. I remember
Yeah.
kids used to wanting to get like permission slips saying that they want to go use the restroom, they need permission slips, but really at 11 o'clock every day, we'll meet at the hallway because they got to see Johnny perform these reggae songs, right? It was very,
Wow.
very,
Okay.
very fantastic, right? So I'm getting attention, so I'm liking it. But at the same time, all of this good attention was good and all, but really when I get home, I will be in my home alone, depressed, still not being able to overcome these trials that I've been over, right? That I went through. And I remember one time I was walking in the hallway at the high school, and this one kid shouted really loud. He said, "Hey, Mr. Bombastic!" And I turned around, and I was like, "Mr. Bombastic?" And then he's saying, "Hey, yeah, you Mr. Bombastic, right? You be doing this good, cool reggae songs at the hallway and things like that. The kids love you, man. Like, it's really cool." And then when he was saying that, I said, "Mr. Bombastic, huh? Oh, okay. I like that. I am Mr. Bombastic, right?" So all of a sudden, I'm just like reclaiming my confidence and all that kind of things, and it felt good. And so because I'm like, for the very first time, I'm seeing myself bringing something to the world that finally somebody is liking. But behind the scene, I was still
Yeah.
struggling with this kid coming from Haiti, having issues with
Right.
bullying in the high school, and then with the traumas that he went through and all those kind of things. So it was very interesting. So I created all that for myself, but at the same time, I was still miserable on the inside. And just
Yeah.
long story short here, to overcome that, I remember I had to start mastering self-development. Even when I started college and all that, everything was cool. I did very poorly in college. I'm not even gonna lie about it. I was studying
Hmm.
software engineering. It was not easy. It really wasn't easy, but I graduated and I started my IT career as a software developer. And through that
Hmm.
process, even that wasn't easy itself, because I didn't realize that I had ADHD. So with that process, having ADHD, I had a lot
Hmm.
of difficulties being focused at work, not being able to deliver work on time. I actually lost 3 jobs in the process of redefining my identity. And through all of that, I also went through
Hmm.
a seven, I went through this crazy divorce, which also took a big toll on me. And I was at a really dark place, at
Hmm.
a point of my time, right? But to
Yeah.
come to to really recovering myself with that moment, I had to really defining my current self. That was the very first step that I
Hmm.
had to take when I started to master self development. Defining my current self, meaning that determine what defines the current me at the moment. Because I believe that to
Hmm.
move forward and redefining yourself, you will have to begin with understanding who you are at this point of time, right? And look at your life objectively and ask yourself what your values, your goals, and dreams are. And then you can
Yeah.
start by creating a list, for example. And then from there, you create some personal assessment. As a matter of fact, I know that you have me doing that, doing some personal assessments to really help me to narrow down some of my life objectives, right? And then also I had to come to a point where
Yeah.
to I had to stop avoiding self-criticism, negative things that were no longer serving me. I had to just let them go,
Right.
right? And that was a part of defining my
Hmm.
current self, right? And I had to also
Yeah.
explore my relationship with myself, meaning that I had to think
Yeah.
about time that I spend when I'm alone, because back then I remember growing
Hmm.
up, the time that I spent alone was miserable. It was lonely time. It was time where I would be in depression, thinking that nobody loves me. There were times that I even thought about committing suicide. It was really that deep.
Hmm.
But now, when I'm
Yeah.
alone, I think of positive things that I can do that can benefit me in the long run, right? Positive things
Hmm.
that can help
Hmm.
me as an individual. And there are times I had to talk about myself, or I had to talk to myself about myself, like kind of putting myself
Right.
in a room with different parties, with different participants, and each participant will be a different part of me. Like kind of have this talk
Mm.
and asking
Hmm.
questions and have, hey, ask this question, this person answer, but it's still me in three
Yeah.
different person, right? And then
Yeah.
so I have to have that as a practice on a regular basis to really help me to discover myself. And then the second thing I had to do was to move away from my old self,
Hmm.
realize that it was never too late to reinvent myself,
Yeah.
because to me, I feel like no one, or it's never too old to establish
Right.
themselves, right? Change is a
Exactly.
part of life,
Yeah.
and it can be a positive thing. And if you use it correctly, right? Always be prepared to grow and adapt at every stage of your life. And then you gotta
Right.
let go of the past. That's the very important one. Letting go of the past was was probably the hardest
Yeah.
thing. And I'm sure that it is for a lot of people who
Yeah.
may be watching this life here.
Hmm.
Letting go of the past can be very, very hard. But there's a point of time you got to come to yourself and start asking yourself which aspect of your life are being influenced by your past hurts, by your past insecurities, by the regrets, right?
Yeah.
And then once you
Hmm.
identify those issues, you commit to yourself that you are gonna do whatever it takes to let those past hurts, those past regrets have no control over you, right? So that's one
Yeah.
that's another thing that I had to follow. And then lastly, I had to learn how to learn from my mistake, right? That's in anything.
Right.
Like even like you go through a
Exactly.
relationship, you got to be able to learn from the mistakes that happen and make sure that it doesn't happen again. So all of those things
Yeah.
were the things that I had to follow, and then always I had to keep that mindset of moving forward. Regardless of what's
Mm.
happening, what happened in the past, what's happening now. I always had to have that mindset of moving forward, man. Just keep it moving. Think positive the most that you can,
Mm.
and just keep things moving. Commit to arranging the way you act out your priorities so that it matches the way you view those priorities in your mind pretty much. So yeah, so all of that man, I went to deep self-development to help me regain my
Yeah.
identity, regain myself, and be able to move on with all those traumatic experience that I've had.
Yeah. That I was gonna say that's a lot of hardship to overcome, and and
Yeah,
it really,
definitely.
and what I love about you sharing your story is that it really puts things in perspective for not to how should I say this, make any problems that I see is like, oh, this is such a big deal, like it's so hot today or something. That's a bad example, but like, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like sometimes we feel like we have it so bad, but it's like when you put it in
Yeah.
perspective, it's like you don't have it that bad. Like you have a
You
roof over
don't.
your head, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it really just like
Yeah.
makes you appreciate
Yeah.
your upbringing. And and that being said, I think that it's really easy for us to use any hardships that we go through as an excuse or reason to victimize
Exactly.
ourselves. And as a result, we
Exactly.
feel stuck and powerless. So how did you overcome that temptation to victimize yourself and instead rebuild your self-worth? What was that process for you? How were you able to overcome
Mm.
that?
Wow, that's you asking all the good
Because
questions, Miss Shannon.
you could definitely use
Yeah.
that as an
Yeah.
excuse, right? Like you have the excuse to
Yeah.
be like, I
Easily.
was abused. Like this is my reason why I do whatever I'm doing now in my life. So how did you break
Hmm.
out of that?
I did that by I rebuild my values by removing false perceptions and belief, removing the
Yeah.
false perceptions and the belief. And I did this by letting go of the things from my past that were no longer serving me. The past
Yeah.
errors and judgment, the past mistakes, the past bad feelings, and realize that at whatever point I'm currently at in life, it was a result of all the past decisions and choices or things that I allow my mind to wander over, right? And I just had to just remove those false perceptions. They not real.
Yeah.
They really not real. The moment that you've had in the past, they not real. And even I didn't share this part. um the healing process for me also I had to have a conversation with my mother, as a matter of fact, right?
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
because for me,
Mm-hmm.
I needed closure. I needed to know why made her decide to do what she did. And having to do that, it wasn't easy, but it was the best thing I could have done, because with that
Yeah.
conversation, that's what allowed me to be able to forgive myself in the first place, because I'm not
Yes.
perfect. And then I start to recognize that she was not perfect herself, and
Mm-hmm.
start listening her story made me think a little deeper as to why she had to act the way she did. Now, nothing to justify what she
Mm.
did, nothing to justify what she did, but at
Yeah.
the same time, just hearing her story, you're like, oh wow, she had it bad herself too. She went through a lot of,
Yeah.
physical abuse as well. She went through sexual abuse. She went to molestation and all that crazy things she had to go through. Made her
Yeah.
so bitter. And then on top of it, she was raising 5 kids. 5 kids. We have 1, 2 children, and we're like, oh my goodness, life is over. Like, but she had
Right.
to do it
Exactly.
five,
Yeah.
5 of us, in a third world country where it was so hard to raise children there. So she had to do it all by herself, right? So I had
Yeah.
to put that into perspective as well and start to
Mm,
apply more
mm-hmm.
understanding and really
Yes.
apply more understanding and then kind of like, hey, you know what? I guess it's cool. But guess what? I forgive you. Now, for her to
Mm,
put, she couldn't admit that she did a mistake. For her, it was like I did
okay.
what I had to do, right? But at the same time, I
Interesting.
know
Yeah.
I know that don't justify because that's a Haitian
Right.
thing, right? Even
Yeah.
parents, you hear parents they hard to it's hard for them to apologize about things when they come, do the mistakes. It's hard to apologize. So it was hard for her to even apologize, but for her it was like I did what I had to do, but at the same time I still feel that how she feel bad about the way the approach that she took, right? So after having that
Yeah.
conversation, man, it was just a relief. But being able to have that conversation was kind of helped me to overcome, to kind of like forgive myself and just kind of
Yeah.
no longer focus on those things. And now I gotta go ahead and start rebuilding values for myself.
I love that so
Yeah,
much. That is so key, and
definitely.
that's one of the things that I find myself talking to my clients about so much is that forgiveness component, and it's not so much about the other person. It's like what you said, when you
Yeah,
forgave her, it cleared your
yeah,
energy,
exactly.
right?
It really does.
And
It
then
really does. It really does.
yeah, and then you're
Yeah,
open
it
now
really
to
does.
receive love because if
You open to receive. Exactly.
you're blocking yourself on some level when you're holding on to that negative energy,
Yeah,
it's blocking you. So
exactly.
for you to be able to be able to put yourself, like you said, changing your perspective is so huge too, and being able to just really understand where other people are coming from, and these conflicts
Yeah,
that we have in our relationships, being able to have the
yeah,
ability to step outside yourself for a second and put yourself in the other person's shoes, and like you said, not to validate and justify what they did, but just to understand where
yeah.
they're coming from. Like
Exactly.
that's
Understand.
so
That's just yeah.
important.
It helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you can allow yourself to just listen, kind of like
Yeah.
type yourself, skip yourself of it. Just kind of let them talk, see where they're coming from. It just opens
Hmm.
your mind more to receive, and then the more you can receive and you can
Yeah.
accept, and then you make peace to yourself as you go,
Yes.
by doing that.
That is
Yeah,
the key, is being at
definitely.
peace. Yeah. And so that brings me to so speaking of perspectives and perceptions, most of the time we are not responding to reality itself, but we're responding to what we perceive to be reality, right? What we're interpreting to be
Mm-hmm.
reality. It's like somebody might say something happens to us, and we place meaning on it, right? Or we mind
Yeah.
read, or we assume it means something it doesn't. So how do you, and we're all guilty of doing this on some level, right? As human beings, it's just inevitable, right? Just getting lost in the translation of what people say or what happens to us. So
Yeah.
how do you overcome that? Like if you find yourself falling into the trap of misinterpreting, and you're making it mean something that it doesn't, or something that doesn't serve you, how do you overcome that?
Wow. Flat out, I would say stop worrying about others' opinion. You gotta stop
Yeah.
worry about others' opinion, like real talk. And I know it's a
Yeah,
lot easier
that's
to
so
say than
real.
done. Yeah, I
Easier
know it's
said
a
than
lot
done.
easier to say than done. I get that part, but
Yes.
you gotta come to this place where you no longer worry about what people have to say, because your opinion
Mm,
of yourself is formed in a part by your idea of how others sees you, right? So if you really want to redefine yourself, however, you'll need to become the person you want to be, not the person someone else expects you to be. Yeah, so that's the way I look
yeah.
at it, right? You also need
Yep.
to identify and step away from social pressure that comes from society itself, because that social
Hmm.
pressure, you get caught up into that, and next thing you know, you start to believe that it's real. Those pressure
Yeah.
of wanting to be somebody that people think you should be, and then you see that happens and people like somebody who may be oversized, whatever, right? And then now you're going with all these social media. Instagram nowadays, you see models flexing on Instagram with nice looking bodies. You see guys with nice looking bodies, and then you got this poor person, you know what I'm saying, dealing with size issues and seeing all this thing happen. You stop. You were born with
Right.
greatness inside of you. You were born with purpose. That person who got that better looking body or whatever they got to say about you, it doesn't matter. You got things to offer the world. You just got to keep on pushing on yourself and do whatever you got to do to make sure that you're serving yourself. Nobody, nobody's opinion
Yeah.
should matter. Yeah, nobody's
I
opinion
love
should
that
matter.
so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That is everything right there. And I think it is hard, it
yeah,
is easier said than done. But it's like all we can do is keep practicing, embracing our authenticity, even when we might not be accepted by others, and
yeah,
not letting other
exactly.
people, what we think other people might be saying, that's the key word, is thinking, because sometimes they might not even be thinking what we're thinking they're meaning,
Yeah,
right? So it's just
exactly,
like,
exactly.
first of all, they might not even think that, but if they do, it's like not
They might, yeah.
allowing that to take away anything from us.
To take away,
We're
yeah,
still
yeah,
who we
because
are.
you're still who you are, and we can sometimes
Yeah,
we tend to give words so much power when we sit and meditate on them for too long. Like, so people will say something, and next thing you know, we take what they say and trying to associate it with some past pain that we've been through, with something that we've been through in the past,
right.
and thinking and start taking it all personal. When in reality, all it takes away to is just having a listening ear, man. You don't have to
Yeah,
make it all about you all the time, you know what I'm saying? And the things that you go
right.
through, there's still ways you can try to understand people's point of view and where they're coming from. And not everything, something somebody
Yeah,
will say got to do with you. So sometimes it's about taking time to listen, and if somebody
yeah,
wants to say something about you, you just dismiss it. You just act like, oh, okay, all right. You just smile and keep it moving, baby. Keep it moving. So that's that's
right.
that's that's the way I go about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I love that so
hmm
much. And that's so powerful, because that really determines whether you're going to feel like crap the rest of the day, or you're going to feel great,
all right,
which is going to determine what you
right.
ultimately end up doing and
Yeah.
the results you're getting,
Exactly.
right? So
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
little moment right there is like, yeah, that's so, so
Yeah.
key.
And
I
then
love that.
that's why it's so cool. To what you just said there. It's always good to make sure you always start your day on the right path. Like, and then through
Yeah, for
that,
sure.
I've learned that meditation helps a lot. Meditation helps a lot. And then start your day on the right path. If you work out, if you're into
Yeah,
working out, keep that going. And if you're not an early person, you're not a workout person, try find a working out partner, or somehow, some way, somehow, trying to find ways you can go ahead and do some workout, do your meditation. If you into prayer, for me, I pray a lot. I pray every day, twice, three times a day. I'm driving, I'm
yeah,
praying. In the morning, I pray. At night,
I
I
love
pray. So
that.
I kind of create this
Yeah,
prayer life for myself so that it can set my mind on that peaceful level to where nothing that happens around me matters. Like seriously,
yeah,
nothing
I love
happens around me
that.
matters. And when people are trying to
Yeah.
bring negativity, um, I still open to hear their stories because for me, I'm a life coach, so basically I
Yeah.
have to have an open ear to listen, but at the same
Hmm.
time, I definitely don't let anything come into my way of my peace and disturb my peace. That's the
Yeah.
way to go.
Kind of, setting up that protective,
That
protecting
protector,
your
yeah,
energy. Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah,
love that. That's
exactly,
so important
exactly.
to, I'm always saying, fill up your cup first before you fill up everyone else's cup,
There we
right?
go.
Because
There you
like if
go.
you're on
Yeah,
the airplane, they say it's
yeah,
like you got to put your oxygen mask on first, or you're gonna pass
yeah,
out and die before
exactly.
you could save the person next to you, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, that
yeah.
morning routine is everything. Yeah, it's so important.
Yeah, so like fill up your
So
cup, like you said, I like that. You fill up your cup, and then whatever the overflow, that's what you just give it to people. You give people the overflow, baby, but you make sure
yeah,
your cup is filled up, and then the overflow.
right.
Hey, I got enough to give to others. So yeah, that's what life
Exactly.
is about. Yeah,
Exactly. Yep. Got to protect
yeah.
that
So
cup, that
that's
energy.
awesome. Exactly right. I
Yeah.
like that. I like that. I like that.
So I wanted to ask you, because some of the things that I know some of my other clients struggle with is that inevitable outgrowing phase, that the growing pains of when you're doing the work on yourself, you're progressing, you're inevitably going to start to outgrow some of those friends, maybe family members, people who aren't as aligned with you anymore because you're going down a different path, and
Yeah,
maybe they aligned with you back in your old identity. So how did you
yeah,
overcome outgrowing the people that were around you before you started to redefine yourself?
yeah, yeah. That's a good question. That's a good question. I think being able to outgrow people is having the ability to carry a growth mindset at all times instead of
Mm,
having a fixed mindset. Because what happened
yeah.
is that people with a fixed mindset kind of tend to believe in one thing, and they don't look forward to better themselves on a regular, right? So basically, I feel like people with the with the fixed mindset believe their basic qualities, like their intelligence or talents, are simply fixed traits, right? So they spend their time documenting their intelligence or talents instead of developing them. And if you compare that to somebody who keep that growth
Mm,
mindset, which is like having the belief that their most basic ability can be developed through dedication and hard work, you just keep on working
yeah.
on yourself on a day-to-day basis. And then when that
Hmm.
happens, you're gonna start noticing that conversation with those type of people with a fixed mindset kind of feel unnatural, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the things that you used to do together no longer entertain you, right? The things that they still
Yeah.
find entertaining, and you're like, oh, that was 10 years ago, bro. Like, I'm on a new
Right.
level right now, baby.
You're on a
You
new
better go
level.
ahead and
Yeah.
get on the train with me. I'm on a new level, right? And then you will have no desire to
Right.
spend time with them, either on the phone or even like, for example, family members is a great example, right? Our family
Yeah.
members, they will forever be in our lives, but at the same time, they family
Right.
members. So how we make sure that we kind of like keep them away from pushing forward, because some of them, they will stay on that level where for you just on that growth mindset and just pushing forward, right? So, like, for example, I have family members, when they call me,
Hmm.
I keep it very brief, very, very short. Hey, how's it going there? Keep it cool, keep it nice. How can I
Yeah.
help you? Like, how you been? Like the same
Yeah.
little basic question, just ask them. And then, like, for example, like even my mother, as a matter of fact, bless her heart, like right now we have great relationships, man. It's cool because
Wow.
she is the one who always check up on me. As a matter of fact, she will
Yeah.
make sure she call me like almost every day, or if not every other day, just to say hi. And it's funny because our
Hmm.
conversation, it never be longer than 2 minutes. You know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know that she's at a level where she probably gonna stay there for a long time, or because it's that she got that old mentality. My mother's about 66 right now, and then she
Yeah.
still had that old mentality. So there, she's always gonna be the person she is. So I had to keep that in mind. And when she calls, just keep it cool, and you know that call ain't gonna last. So you just
Yeah.
give her that 2 minutes. Hey, mom, I'm doing good. How you doing? That kind of thing, and just keep it moving. So the way to really,
Yeah.
outgrow people is to make sure you keep a growth mindset at all time. Always stick to learning. Always stick to wanting to know, about new things, new avenues, man. Stick to reading every day. Just be about your business, and
Yeah.
everything will follow.
I love that. Yeah. Just keep growing, keep
Yeah,
stretching
keep growing.
yourself. I'm always saying if you're not
Yeah,
growing, you're dying. We're like
you
plants. So we got
dying.
to
Yeah,
keep
that's
we
true.
got to keep it
You gotta
going,
keep.
right?
Yeah,
Every
yeah,
single day.
exactly,
Yeah, I love
exactly,
that. That's awesome. So, you
definitely.
know, now that, Johnny is the bachelor, and Johnny is dating now. So, and we've got this whole other extra added layer of complication with COVID added into the mix. How are you dealing with dating in this season right now, and how are you overcoming, being able to continue to honor that authenticity that we're talking about when you're dating at the risk of getting rejected by these women that you're going out on dates with? Like, how do you handle that?
Oh man, that's a good
I'm putting you on the
question there.
spot,
Yeah.
Johnny.
So yeah, you really did on this one. So really the way I go about that, I've had a lot of experience in terms of dating, right? And with the things that I've been through in life, and I had to teach myself how to accept rejection.
Yeah.
I remember, when I was in college, my boys and I, we used to go to the mall, and we would have this competition. Hey, let's see who's gonna go out there and get the most numbers, right? And then, whoever get the most numbers, we win. And honestly speaking,
Yeah.
guess who used to win this competition for most part? Take a wild guess who used to win
Johnny,
this competition. There
with
you
your
go. There
bombastic, you
you
got him
go.
with your bombastic moves, I'm
Mr. Boom,
guessing.
hey, look, yeah, so
Obviously.
really I had my way of approaching women, right? And so I had my process of approaching them, but at the same time I
Okay.
also used to get a lot of rejection. Sometimes I would get so much rejection and I will act like they still give me the number so that I would not embarrass myself in front of my
Fake it till you
boys,
make
right?
it. Fake it till you
But
make it.
yeah, fake it. Yeah, there we go. Fake it until you make it. So I used to get a lot of rejection, and even now, I may reach out to a girl on Instagram or Facebook, whatever, just to say how I kind of introduce myself, and then some of them will tell me straight up, like, don't even try. I got a boyfriend. Like, I don't want you. You're
Hmm.
cute and everything, but I'm good. So kind of get used to that rejection. Like, and
Yeah.
don't take it personal, man. Don't take it personal. Because at the end of the day, like for me, it's more about when I come across, a woman. It's about trying to be authentic as much as possible. That
Hmm.
you're not really coming across as this guy who just wanna mac and just like, hey girl, like what your name is, like can I get your phone number, like what's up? But just be
Yeah.
authentic, right? Act like this, on a friendship level, like make it cool. Be easy, be yourself. In worst case scenario, she gonna say, hey, I got a boyfriend or I'm married or whatever. Like
Hmm.
just keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? But the way I go about it, man, I I'm used to rejection. So, but at the same time, I know that eventually, like whoever is for me, she's gonna come. So I'm not about that. But most importantly, I think it's always good to make sure that you work on yourself first.
Yeah.
While you wait, especially at
Absolutely.
this moment, this whole COVID thing that's happening, this whole pandemic that's happening right now, I think it's a time for refinement. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta like don't focus too much dating or don't focus too much on other things that don't serve you right now because right now you may want to date just because you may feel lonely, so you're looking for that partner
Mm.
to really help you
That
fulfill
right
certain
there.
needs, right?
That
Right,
right there,
so
you just hit it on the nail.
right. Yeah, so this time right now it's really time for you to really you got to take a step back to redefine yourself and figuring out what is that you want in life. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? It may not be a boyfriend right now. It may not be a girlfriend right now. It might be the time to really trying to get that business going that you've been wanting to get going for the longest. That
Hmm.
podcast you wanted to go to get started, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like we all have a voice. We all have something inside of us that we can bring to the world, right?
Yeah.
So instead of focusing on finding somebody to really help us to stay comfortable in our comfort zones, stay focused on you. Make sure you are whole first. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? And then when you're ready for that relationship, you know that when you step into that ring, you bring in 100%, baby. You're not like 50,
Yeah.
50. I'm half ready. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But you make sure that you fix yourself first, and then start into looking into the person who's gonna be for you. She's gonna come. He's gonna come.
Yeah.
But make sure you work on yourself first.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Filling up your cup, going back to filling up your cup
Yeah.
first. So you have
There we
something
go.
to
There we
give
go.
to that other person. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. And I love what
Yeah.
you say about
Definitely.
rejection. It's like getting used to rejection because that is
Get used to
inevitable,
it.
right? With anything in
Get
our
used
life,
to it.
with
Yeah.
the businesses we want to
Anything.
start, any endeavors in our careers, like rejection is something that we've got to associate as a positive thing, associate it with success
Yeah.
because everybody who's
Yeah.
successful has
Exactly.
been rejected so many times. So,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. And with that being said, like just to add on real quick on that rejection, I will use an analogy of an apple, right? An apple is just a
Mm,
fruit, right? An apple, the
right.
purpose of an apple is to be an apple, provide that vitamin
Yep.
C, that vitamin A, and to be fruitful and be able to eat it. And that's a good apple. But its purpose is to be an apple, create other apple
Right.
from its seeds, and just flourish. You know what I'm saying? But what happens with a lot of us is that because we're so used with rejection, we fear that people will reject us. So instead of being this great, juicy looking apple that we are, we trying to be an orange because
Yeah.
we feel other people
Hmm.
gonna like orange. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to be an orange. I'm gonna go ahead and try to be an avocado because these other people don't
Right.
like apples, they like orange. But really, in reality, you were born with greatness inside of you, and whoever is for you, they're gonna come after you. All you got to do is just
Right.
keep on working on yourself. Be that
Hmm.
great looking, juicy apple to the best of your ability. And the
Yep.
people who are for you, it's going to come after you.
Yeah.
Don't try to be an orange. Don't try to be an
Right.
avocado
Yeah.
because some people may not like an apple. Some people may want to
Right.
eat an orange. Not every day I like
Yeah.
an apple. And some people, they don't like apple at all. Like, seriously. But Apple
Right.
is still being sold at the store, right? People are still buying Apple. So
Right.
just stick
Exactly.
to who you are. Stick to your purpose of being
Hmm.
this fruitful
Yeah.
apple with seeds inside of you. And with that seed you have inside of you, keep on planting him. Keep on putting him on the floor and create some better looking apples, baby. So because at the time, flourish, keep a full looking apple and stop to be other people. Just be yourself and accept that,
Yeah. I
knowing
love
that
that.
other people are going to reject you. So that's what I got to say
Yes.
about that.
It's going to happen. I love that
It's
so
going to
much.
happen.
That's
It's
so
going to
true.
happen. It's going to
It's going
happen.
to happen.
Yeah,
But I
in due
love
time.
that just being who you are is, like you said, you're going to attract the people into your life who
Yeah,
want to be around you just because of who you are, you being your true
exactly.
authentic self. And
Exactly.
that to
Exactly.
me is, like I was saying in the beginning, that is freedom. It's like knowing that you have the right to choose every single day to embrace your authenticity. And
Exactly.
as a result, you're going to attract the right people around you because you're being
Yeah.
yourself,
Because you being
So,
yourself. And then just to add a real quick, and I'm going to make this one quick, like even me going through the traumas that I went through, the insecurity issues with all those issues I've had, happening to me. Um, I I was being accepted for the things I was able to do. I was able to go ahead and make a scene, just do my reggae thing, and people used to like me. But in reality, people didn't know me because behind the
mm,
scene, when I get home, I'll be isolated in a room, thinking that man, I'm all alone. Nobody likes me. I have no
mm,
friends and none of that.
mm-hmm,
But truthfully, I had to start loving myself first, man. Be-
right.
realize that no, you still can bring something to the world and still be yourself and start loving yourself, accept yourself for who you are, knowing that
Yeah.
even though you see yourself by yourself in the room alone, whatever, you can use that time to be better so that you can bring better things to the world. So it's about involving, it's all about improving. Like I said earlier, that growth mindset is super, super important. You just keep on working on you,
Yeah.
right? Because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you're gonna find the ones who's gonna be in your life, and then you still can shine through the gift that you were born with. So
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. Yeah. And I think that we're oftentimes, like you said, we're comparing ourselves to others, right? We're trying to be
we
an orange
compare
when
it.
we're an
Yeah,
apple. And it's not so much about
exactly.
comparing yourself to others, but comparing yourself to who you were yesterday and just continuing, like you said, to
There we
improve.
go.
So you're continuing to grow
Improve.
every single day. And so you're only
Yeah.
comparing yourself to your old self.
To
So,
your old self.
yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. 'Cause
Hmm.
that's the only
So I think
time
I think we're running out.
our past matters. Yeah. So you can
Yeah.
We running out
being
of
able to
time?
reflect.
Okay, so we're about to,
I
yeah, we can
don't
close
know,
pretty soon.
but I want to wrap up on the last question and then make sure we plug your
Okay,
podcast that you are getting ready to
okay.
launch, which is really exciting.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
leave you
So,
with this last question before we you drop all
mm-hmm,
that information so we can make sure we follow your journey and where we
mm-hmm,
can see all of those good things. What for
mm-hmm.
you, how have you been able to continue to embrace your new empowering beliefs that you created for yourself in your new identity and walk your purpose?
That's a good one. I validated my empowering beliefs through association, right?
Yeah.
So being able to associate, the things that we go through, and then knowing that, like you were saying earlier, like associate the past and your present, and that's how you're gonna be able to like, oh man, I'm really at a better place right now, and I'm loving where I'm right now. And if you're not loving your current self at the moment, you're not able to associate to something that did not serve you yesterday and it's serving you now, then you need to do more work. So the way I go about that is use associations of the past, not using the past as a burden, as something that's really controlling me, but using that as a way to measure what I'm doing now. So through association, that's the simple answer I can say about that.
Okay. I'm seeing the timer now. We have like a little over a minute.
Okay,
So really quickly before we
okay.
run out of time, where can everyone follow you, keep up with your journey, and be able to tune in once you launch your podcast?
Right here on Instagram, you can find me. My new website is being built right now. Everything is still in the work. I have a new podcast coming out, calling "Getting Back to Basics." It's a podcast where I provide tips and tools with two individuals to help them to discover who they are and help them through the real issues that they go on a regular basis. I give tools on helping them to reclaim their personal power so they can do great things in life. So it's a podcast that's getting ready to drop the end of this month. Actually, it's supposed to be bananas. It's supposed to be crazy. So I definitely look forward to start my very first episode here. I got back-to-back episodes coming out. So check me out on Instagram for now. Facebook, Johnny Dorvillion. It's JohnnyDorvilien. Check your boy out. And I have a lot
Yes.
of things coming out. And just so you know, I got the great coach Shannon here, who's also helping me out here. So things are really in the process right now, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited.
Me too. The best is yet to come. Well, thank you so much
That's
for
what's up.
joining in on this conversation, and
Definitely.